everything around me. Green, get the money. Dollar bill, yo.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to my Icecaller Healer Guide. If you're watching this video, you're probably a little bit crazy because you are opting to play one of the hardest things in the game. I've played almost every single promotion class in this game extensively, and I think this is by far one of the hardest things in the game to play. I think the Icecaller has a very high skill floor and a very high skill ceiling, meaning it takes quite a bit to even play the class halfway decently, and the difference between a really good one and a really bad one is massive. That's why you do not see hardly anyone playing this promotion class. I think this healer is incredibly good, but it takes a lot more to play it well than the other healers in the game, which is fine. That's fine. I'm not against that, but this is what you're signing up for. So, the Icecaller, why is it so hard? Well, first of all, it's aim dependent. Now, I know some of you are like, what do you mean it's aim dependent? The hitboxes in Crowfall are huge. The thing with the Icecaller is that you have to predict your teammates' movements as well as place down your AoEs in such a fashion to where they're healing optimally. That is very aim dependent, especially with how you have to aim ice in this like geometry style way. There is no, it's not like putting a druid orb down where you can see where you're putting it. You're freestyling. You just have to kind of know. You kind of gotta know where it is and where you are in your global cooldown. Something I currently struggle with still is being halfway on a global cooldown and then the ability queuing kicking in, and then I don't place it quite exactly where I want to because I'm in a different... I just don't have the timing down yet on the globals completely, so I miss-aim some stuff every now and then. But Frostweaver, very aim-dependent. Like, trust me, it is... If you're not putting the heals down in a way to where your teammates don't even have to think about it, then you're doing it wrong. If you're asking people to play around you as this class, just stand in my circles, bro. Yeah, you're doing it wrong. I mean, your teammates can help you out a little bit, but you need to be the one doing the work, and you need to be the one predicting their movement. Think about playing the Icecaller as playing Pharah in Overwatch. That's kind of how it is. You don't need to be like super duper pinpoint accurate, but you need to be predicting people's movements, and you still need to be putting your shots accurately into your teammates. So think Pharah. That's my analogy. So not only is it aim dependent, it is also a lot of decision making. You got to know when to use your direct heals. Direct heals are great for hitting people that are moving. You got to know when to put down the AoEs. You got to be aware of your AoEs, where they are, how many you got out. You can only have 5 cooling ice out at once. So once you have 5 cooling ice out, then you need to start worrying about putting refreshing ice down. When the fight's moving, where it's moving, where you think it's going to move, all kinds of decisions you make with this class that the skill ceiling is unachievable, which is great. It is great that it's unachievable because there's always something you could do better, which is why it is so satisfying to play this class. And when you're preemptively hitting those heals and, you know, that you're moving them with the fight, it's great. I love it. So now that I scared off all the non-believers, why would you play this class over the Druid and the Cleric that are much easier options? And the number one reason is that this healer heals people outside of group better than anyone else. All of your heals, pretty much all of your major heals, are usable on people that are not in your group. So if you're running around in a 12-man party or a big raid, or even just healing some guy that, you know, some random guy in factions or some random guy in your guild that's not your group, you can pretty much heal that person with 100% efficiency. None of the other healers can really say that, especially not the Druid. The Druid is very party limited. Cleric has some out of party heals, but even that, it's got some, you know, Illuminate and things like that are party locked. The Icecaller, yeah, dude, it's not a big deal to heal somebody out of party at all. It is, you know, everything is, you know, free form, free firing, which is a blessing and a curse, but it's definitely a blessing in a lot of situations. So that's one thing. And the second thing, you can self-heal pretty well with spamming ice armor on yourself, standing your own cooling ice, spamming refreshing ice on yourself. You can self-heal incredibly well. You can be pretty tanky, especially if you have a line of sight object to work with, because you can just kind of rotate around that pillar, spamming healing ice on yourself. It's, you know, it's pretty nice. So there are some solid reasons to play this class. You do have longer animations. You are prone to disruption. Cutthroats in their current state can just completely blow you the fuck up before you do anything, but they do that to basically everybody right now until they get nerfed. There are some downsides, but there are a lot of upsides. If you can hack it and you can hang with it and get good at it, there is a lot of power to be had with the Icecaller Healer, in my opinion. So now that we're done with the overview, let's get into the races. Now, normally I would talk about how all of the Frostweaver races are good, and they are, but for this specific build, you need to be a Wood Elf because I am using Blood Rose and Moon Elf Heritage, and I'm not running a domain. So you need to be Wood Elf for this specific Frostweaver, but to be honest, Wood Elf is a phenomenal race for Frostweaver. Reflection of Nature, the bonus crit healing and the bonus incoming healing, that's a great pick for a Frostweaver or really any healer. Then you have Camouflage. I know it's kind of a meme, but dude, it actually comes in handy for a lot of open world PvP. Dissipate, the primary thing that a lot of people think of when they think of Wood Elf. The Blink, that's great for Wood Elf. Or that's great for Icecaller because you don't have any mobility in your kit. And that is almost a defensive cooldown. You know, if you have people on you, you can rotate between your Blink and your Ice Armory and your other, you know, defensive options. So, dude, Blink is a fantastic defensive option for getting around a pillar real quick or kind of losing somebody in the fray. So Wood Elf, you have to be Wood Elf for this specific build, but it's definitely not a bad choice, even if you're not running this build. So, yeah, that's the race. Now let's get into the... oh, yeah, I forgot. Root Immune. You are Root Immune as a Wood Elf, too. It's a great choice. I mean, they didn't really... I didn't really feel like I was having my arm twisted when I came up with this build, going, I have to be Wood Elf? Nah, dude, it's a great race. Now onto the major disciplines. First major I run is Friar. Now, I know I am high-rolling here with the legendary Friar, but this discipline is incredible. It's going to give me 3% healing bonus and 100 support power at the legendary version. Even if you don't have the legendary version, this is still an incredible discipline to run. But the legendary version is going to give me basically 200 support power. Fortuitous Blessings in combat is pretty much just an extra 100 support power. Mana is not really an issue for me, and I don't really ever get the speed. Generally in combat, I'm going to be having the Charitable Blessings, I think it is, that gives you the support power. So just... this legendary is basically 200 more support power, and Chain Heal is a phenomenal heal, low cooldown, direct heal. You can hit it on somebody on the move. Hits, 3 different targets. It's a fantastic discipline. This one, almost every healer uses this discipline for a reason. It's really solid. And next up, we have Ice Armorer. This is probably the one that catches people off guard. Ice Armory, this is a defensive cooldown. So as a Frostweaver, your Frost Armor is a huge heal. It can hit for like 1,300 healing crits. It's amazing. So when you put down Ice Armory and you put down 5 of these bad boys, that all of a sudden becomes a serious, defensive cooldown that you can use to top somebody up, top yourself. It's a fantastic ability on a 20-second cooldown or 24-second cooldown. It's great. Yeah, this one I think is super underrated for... Icecaller. Yeah, it's a huge amount of healing. It does take a little bit of coordination. You're generally going to have to scream out to your teammate that's low, like, hey, Pac-Man, these are ice armors. Give them a little bit of time to kind of get their bearings. But you'll see in the gameplay clips that it is very effective. Now let's get on to the minors. So first minor, Blood Rose. I have the legendary Blood Rose as well. These you can get pretty easily because not too many people understand how good this actually is. Blood Rose is going to proc a Thorn Shield on anybody you heal that is in your party. I believe this is in your party. It doesn't say that. Oh yeah, group member. So this used to actually be crazy OP when it was anyone. But anyway, so what this is going to do is it's going to put Thorn Shield on anybody in your group that you heal, including yourself. When you have Thorn Shield, it means that every single attack you're hit with is 50 damage reflected onto that person. 50 unmitigatable damage. So every time an assassin hits you with an LMB, 50 damage, 50 damage, 50 damage, 50 damage. And this is on anybody you heal. This is obviously going to add up to be a significant amount of damage throughout a fight. I think this discipline is just incredible value. It's an incredible value. I have not done parsing to see how much damage it adds up to throughout a large fight, but it's got to be immense. An immense amount of damage this adds up to. And you really don't have that many other solid pure healing choices with this particular build. But again, just like, you know, playing a Wood Elf, you're not twisting my arm saying, well, you got to run Blood Rose. Like, you don't really have many choices, but this is also a fantastic... Even if I did have a bunch of choices, I would still definitely probably take Blood Rose, or at least consider it. Next up, we have Rune Shield. This one is self-explanatory. I don't have Rune Shield on my bar. I'm running this thing for the 100 support power. That's the only reason I'm running it. What's nice is that you can very easily get Legendary Rune Shield because nobody else runs this shit. But 100 support power is super solid. Rune Shield isn't bad. Like, it's not bad if you put it on your bar, but as crazy as it sounds, camouflage in open world PvP, like, this thing will save your life. You know, if you're the guy with the loot and you're able to get away in camo, it's crazy. Like, it really is a super underrated skill. So I've been having fun with camo, but normally I'll have Ice Weave on my bar, but right now I have the camo because was doing some open world PvP stuff earlier. And Moon Elf Heritage. This one is another self-explanatory thing. I have the epic Moon Elf Heritage. This is pretty. I'm not gonna lie. This one's gonna cost you a pretty penny to get the epic. But even just the green, I believe the green gives you 200 HP. I'm using this for the health. This is purely for the stats. Not even the Moon Elf Heritage buff, like 25 perception, 10 range distance bonus, farsight, and AP. Like, all those stats are kind of terrible for you as a healer. I mean, they're not bad, but they're not going to help you out a whole ton. This is primarily for the health. So, yeah, the reason why these miners are mainly the way they are, Blood Rose is a solid choice. Rune Shield is definitely a solid choice. Moon Elf Heritage, I mean, if I had my way, I'd run it something else probably. But we're not running no domain. We're not running a domain here. So that's why that is the way it is. So normally in these videos, I try to give some alternate disciplines that you could run instead of these, if you're not a fan of something. But with me not having a domain, that really limits the amount of things I can suggest. However, one particular swap you can make is you could drop Ice Armorer for Pixie, and you could do Pix Fix and Friar and Soothing Winds. Those all sort of synergize pretty well together, but honestly, Ice Armorer is just super solid. You're not going to see me take that off my bar. It's just a huge defensive cooldown and a huge, like, big heal that you can save somebody with, which is something that the Icecaller kind of struggles with. So it's one of the weaknesses you can kind of fix with Ice Armorer, so that's nice. Now let's get on to the gear. First thing you're going to notice is that I'm wearing leather armor. You can go either way with this. I'm currently wearing leather because it is going to give you some more healing bonus, and I'm nowhere near the healing bonus cap right now. However, as the gear level increases, it's going to be harder to stay under that healing bonus cap, and it may actually be better to wear mail, as well as when the combat changes hit, penetrations are going to get nerfed, and mail will become more valuable. So honestly, you can go either way with this. If you have a really good mail set, definitely just throw that on. It is kind of preference in my opinion, but I'm currently wearing leather. Another thing is I'm running the Cooling Focus Gem. I think this is probably the easiest focus gem to use effectively, mainly because if you get focused by, let's say, a champion and he's jumping on you and you need to heal yourself and he hits you with a stun and you retaliate it, there's a very good chance that your retaliating out of CC is going to proc a Cooling Focus, a Cool Ice at your feet. And that's just great to have. When you get focused, this Cool Focus Gem is going to, that's definitely the most beneficial ice to have at your feet when you're getting focused. And generally, I find that it procs very favorably when I would like it to. But if you want to run Volatile or Frigid or Refreshing even, I think those are valid choices as well. It's just Cooling Ice, probably the easiest to get value out of. So, and the last thing is 1900 support power. With Kool-Aid, I only get my support power to 1900. Now, you can get 6 stacks of Kool-Aid, but it's a little finicky, and honestly, I don't rely on it because sometimes in combat, it just, like, for whatever reason, you can't get to 6. The game says you can, sometimes you can't, sometimes you can, but you can reliably get 5 all the time. So what I do is I get my support power to 1900, or in this case, 1899.24. Why? Why not 2000? Well, So if we look at my fortuitous blessings here, I get charitable blessing. Now this is something that I have almost all the time. With the way it plays, I basically always have charitable blessing, which is going to give me another 100 support power and put me at the 2,000 support power cap. Also, there's a chance that you got a centaur in your party, something like that. But for the most part, you're almost always going to have charitable blessing up. I went and looked through all my footage. I almost always have this up. So you're basically at the support power cap as long as you maintain your Kool-Aid stacks. This is super important. So this Kool-Aid stuff that we're going to talk about a little bit more in detail here in a minute is going to separate the men from the boys. So if you're a newer Frostweaver, maybe don't worry about trying to min-max this with Kool-Aid. Maybe just slam all your points into Spirit, because you're inevitably going to mess up your Kool-Aid. Or if you're not taking Kool-Aid at all, then just slam all your points into support power, right? But this Kool-Aid buff is going to give me a ton of support power, so I'm actually going to not cap it out. That's why I'm at 1899 support power. The rest of my points are going into intellect. So, assuming I'm playing well, we have a lot of healing that we're going to be putting out. Now let's get on to the talents. So I'm not going to talk about every talent here because there's no point, but we're going to talk about high points. The first big one is that you're going to notice I have all of the stat bundles. I have them all. Why do I have all the stat bundles? Well, it's obvious. Big boy healing. Dude, the Icecaller can put out some monster healing when you have all the stat bundles. Everything works together, starts scaling. You can put out some monstrous heals. Again, assuming you play well. So the high points are, we have Refreshing Breeze. This is not a heal that is mandatory at all. A lot of Icecaller builds, a lot of the ones that I've made, do not have this skill, and it's certainly not mandatory. But it's a great heal, a great fire and forget heal that you can throw on somebody that's running around like crazy, ranger that's kiting, or a confessor that's zipping around. It's a great heal for that. Chain heal is also a great heal. Chain heal and Refreshing Breeze are both on similar cooldowns, so you can kind of just throw them both out at roughly the same time. And they're great fire and forget heals. I do not use the Refreshing Ice burst part of this. Like, I'm not putting down Stable Ice and then doing Refreshing Breeze. Not doing that at all. I mainly just use this as a way to just fire and forget. Just throw it out there for the 526 healing. If you do have Stable Ice from your Retaliates or whatever on the field, that's a bonus. But I primarily just use this as a fire and forget. Throw it out there. And the last high point, let's talk about Healing Flurries. So this is not a bad heal. The only reason I don't use it is because it is a 6-meter radius. That is pretty small for a heal. Fights in this game can be pretty mobile, and while this is a good heal, and while this would be a great heal if you're getting focused and you just, sit in your own Healing Flurries and just sit there and spam armor on yourself, I don't know. I just don't think that it's a lot harder to get value out of this compared to other heals in the game. Maybe if you have a really coordinated group and like you've been playing together a lot, then you can really maximize this. But for your average pickup group, I feel like it's going to be a lot harder to utilize this well. But it hits 7 targets. It has a really high uptime. I don't know. It's not bad. It's certainly not bad. But again, you only have so many points to work with. And I got Icecaller instead. Now, Icecaller, this talent separates the men from the boys. This is what gives you the stacks of Kool-Aid. You need to be very disciplined with this. If you're running this talent, you need to be very disciplined. You do not want to spend your ice down to 0. Otherwise, you screw yourself. Running Kool-Aid also means you basically have to run the Refrigerate ultimate to get the most out of this. So you're really signing up for a lot with just this talent, but it's going to give you a sick 250, potentially 300 support power. It stacks 6 times, but as we talked about earlier, that's a little finicky. I personally don't trust it to stack 6 times. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. Whatever. But yeah, dude, pretty solid. If you're playing well, it's gonna really add up to a lot of extra healing throughout an entire fight with an extra 250, 300 support power working for you all the time. Yeah, it's dope. So that's all I really have to talk about with the talents. Now let's talk about some of the abilities. So normally in the class guide videos, I can go into more detail about each specific thing and when you should do it. The problem with the Icecaller is that it's all so incredibly situational that I'm just going to give you some general guidelines with how you should utilize these abilities. So first up, Cool Ice. Generally, if your target is not standing in a cool ice circle, you need to do that first. You need to make sure that everybody that you're trying to heal is standing in cool ice, because that's going to be your highest value heal. It just, the lifetime of a cool ice is going to heal somebody for a ton. So make sure they're standing in cool ice. If they're not standing in cool ice, or if they are standing in cool ice and they still need more healing, hit them with your chain heal and hit them with your refreshing breeze. These are two very fire and forget heals, short cooldown. Get them out there. Don't worry about it too much. Then if they still need more healing, I personally think that Chill Out is not a bad heal. It heals you and your lowest group member. It is a longer cooldown, or it is kind of a longer animation, but again, if all those other criteria are met, I think that this heal is gonna, be a nice little stopgap, because by the time you get all this stuff off and Chill Out, your refreshing breeze is probably gonna be close to coming back up, or you might need to, redeploy another cool ice. I think the Chill Out heal is highly underrated. I know a lot of people test it and they're like, what the fuck, this is a 200 heal. But when you factor in like personal healing modifier and your healing buffs and, Pixie and all the other random things that are happening throughout a fight, I've seen that thing hit for like a 700 before. So it can get crazy. It can get pretty good. So also it gives resources to your whole party. If you're rocking with, let's say you're playing with an Earthkeeper druid, like Earthkeeper, Icecaller is like a crazy combo, because I'm constantly lowering their essence with Chill Out and Cooling Ice. So there's definitely some value there. Or you're playing with duelists or assassins or something, and that's giving them pips. So there's definitely some value to the resource aspect of it as well. And then if all of this shit's down and they're still standing in the cool ice and you really just got to pump them with some heals, then you can consider Frost Armor, which is a great heal. Or if it's in an AoE situation, you can do refreshing Ice Weave, which is it hits, it's a big AoE, it's pretty forgiving. But to be honest, man, I think refreshing Ice Weave is pretty overrated. I mean, it's not bad, but I see some Icecallers that just spam the shit out of refreshing ice, and in theory it's good, but I just think it's a lot easier to get value out of cool ice. Not that you shouldn't use refreshing ice, but I think that the playstyle of just spamming refreshing ice, just shotgunning that shit out like 24/7, I don't think that's really the way to go, because you're prime for disruption. So I think the playstyle of dropping down cooling ice, kind of redeploying your cooling ice and managing your cooling ice while simultaneously kind of throwing out some instants every now and then. I think that with the way the game is actually played in reality, where you're getting hit with random CCs and knockbacks and the fight's moving around, I just think that play style, the way I play it, is just more realistic. Now I know that people have mathed it out in their head and they're like, well, this per global is this. Let's see it in action. Let's see it like in practicality when you're randomly having to heal yourself a little bit in between. And I don't know. I just think that play style, sorry, refreshing ice rant. I know, I'm sorry, but I think that that play style of just spamming that one thing constantly, well, while it can be good, is not the best. So now that we've talked about all that, let's talk about some of the damage stuff. This is honestly just fluff and flavor. You can do actually pretty decent damage, and you'll see that in the gameplay clips. Compared to all the other healers in an AoE situation, like Shatterstorm and Freezing Blast and Crystal Lance, you might surprise yourself with how much damage you can do, especially with this build, where I actually have quite a bit of int and quite a bit of critical damage bonus. You can hit some Crystal Lances for not crazy damn, nothing to write home about, but like more than you'd think. So yeah, just weave these bad boys in when if you're going for a kill on somebody, just throw them in there, whatever, don't think about it too much. Crystal Lance, you're going to want to lead with that, because Crystal Lance actually heals you for the damage it does with the Icecaller promotion. But again, nothing to write home about. Don't get too crazy with this stuff, guys. Healing your teammates is the primary objective. So do that. If you just take all this shit off your bar entirely, your kit's not going to be that much weaker. So that's how much I think about that stuff in terms of winning, in terms of fighting. Just don't worry about it too much. It's kind of like style points. And then we have Frost Armor and Ice Armory. Frost Armor, this is your best self-heal. If you're getting heavily focused, put the Cooling Ice at your feet and spam this fucking Frost Armor shit on yourself. This is the way. This is the way. Not only is it going to give you Frost Armor, which is a great resistance buff, but also it's going to just heal you for a lot. Frost Armor heals you as an Icecaller. It's part of the thing. I don't know what the numbers are, but goddamn, it scales really well because it heals pretty hard. It is a long animation. It is on a delay, meaning like where you play, like you basically have to wait like an entire, what feels like 2 seconds for it to appear on the ground when you place it. So it's got this weird delay. It takes some getting used to. You kind of have to put it down like 2 seconds ahead of where the person's going to be. So it's a little weird, a little wonky to get used to, but you will get used to it. It's a great heal, especially for self-healing. And then Ice Armory is just Ice Armory is just Frost Armor on steroids. You put down 5 of these things all at once, and you scream at your teammates, telling them to Pac-Man them, pick them all up at once. That is the way I would personally utilize Frost Armor. Don't sparingly use it. Don't be like, oh man, there's 3 Frost Armor down. I don't want to run into all 3 of them because then I waste Frost Armor time. Like, don't worry about the actual buff of Frost Armor, the resistances. Don't worry about wasting potential resistance time. Pick them all up, dude. Just if you use Ice Armory, get all 5 of them in the same second. Who cares? You need the healing. Worry about the health. Don't worry about the resistance part. That's just a bonus. That's the way I look at it. But you need to be very careful with spamming Frost Armor. It's a very easy way to drain your ice stores, so you need to be on the ball with your ultimate, with Refrigerate. So if you're just spamming this thing and not paying attention to your mana bar and to your ice stores, first of all, you can yourself, which is really bad. You're basically dead. And if you're not paying attention to your ice stores, you will drop your Kool-Aid stacks and be very, very sad when you lose a ton of free support power. So you got to be careful. You know, when you get focused, you gotta stay cool. As dumb of a pun as that is, you gotta stay cool. This is something I struggle with too. You'll see in some of the clips, maybe not in some of the clips I show, but I definitely fuck this up. When you're panicking, it's very easy to spam too much and to find that you just wasted your Kool-Aid buff. But you get it back with Refrigerate, but it's gonna set you back. I almost forgot. Let's talk about the ultimate Refrigerate a little bit. So you can use Cold Comfort, just not with this build. If you are taking Kool-Aid, you really don't want to be using Cold Comfort, in my opinion. I think you're losing out on a lot. If for whatever reason you hate running Kool-Aid, then this is all of a sudden a much better option. But if you're planning on playing my spec, I think you really need to be Refrigerate. Refrigerate basically means that you're never going to have to worry about mana or ice stores. Assuming you just aren't completely irresponsible with spamming like refreshing ice endlessly, you pretty much don't have to worry about your ice stores if you use Refrigerate intelligently. That does mean that you don't have an easy fire and forget, boom, hit this button and everybody gets healed power. That is a weakness of the class. That's a weakness of the class if you use Refrigerate. Cold Comfort is nice for that. It is, but you're just going to have to play around that weakness with this build. To get the most out of this build, you have to play around the weakness of you just don't have a button you can hit that goes, boom, everybody's alive all of a sudden. It's just the way it is. But I don't think this power is terrible. If you're playing, with some of these other heals and you're not so reliant on keeping your ice up with Kool-Aid, then I think it's absolutely possible to run Cold Comfort. But for this build, no. Before we get to the gameplay section of the video, I want to explain some of the more advanced techniques I'm doing. All of these tricks involve the Frostweaver Retaliate, which is incredibly powerful, especially as a healer, because I am at the stamina cap of 200. I have a lot of room to be flashy with Retaliate, and it's really not that big of a deal. Assuming you don't retaliate too much and then get caught in CC, you can utilize your stamina to create more ice. And the way this works is that if you retaliate, it will refill one of your ice stores if you're not full ice. However, if you are full ice, it will drop a stable ice at your feet, which you can convert to cooling ice with chill out. So how this is useful is that you can put down 2 cooling ice for the price of 1 in terms of global cooldowns. You can deploy them very rapidly, and it's always nice to have a cool ice at your feet because you're going to be taking some chip damage. You're a healer. People like to jump on you. It's nice to be ahead of the game a little bit. And also, if you have teammates near you, it heals them. So you can deploy a ton of ice really, really quickly. Actually, you can deploy up to 3 ice in 1 second because not only does the retaliate put ice at your feet, potentially, it also does damage. So that means it can proc your cooling focus gem. It's AoE. You can hit multiple targets with it. There's a very good chance that it's going to proc one at your feet as well. So super valuable. So don't think about this too hard, guys. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop 2 cooling ice down. There's going to be 2 cooling ice down, and I'm still going to be at full ice stores. So there's going to be 1 out here, 1 at my feet, and my ice is still going to be full. Again, don't think about this too hard. It will break your brain, but it is a very neat little trick. So here we go. 1, 2, boom, animation cancel. Convert. 2 cooling ice. Full ice stores. Pretty sick, huh? All with the animation cancel on the retaliate. Now, if an enemy was near me, there could potentially be 3 cooling ice out. That is a very neat little trick. So, using your retaliate creatively is going to really help you out a lot. Now, obviously, if you're not at full ice stores, it's not going to drop 1 at your feet. It's just going to put 1 in your little ice meter there. And that's not bad either. It's not bad. Because that's just less chill outs, or that's just making your Kool-Aid life a lot easier. Means that you have another ultimate. You have to use your refrigerate as much. So yeah, you can't really go wrong with that. You're basically just trading ice for stamina, and it really makes chill out an incredible ability when you can just retaliate, then turn that to cool ice, then just start spamming frost armor on yourself when you're getting focused. Let's say your teammate over here is getting shit on. You can just go boom, boom, boom. You got 1 there. You got more ice. Look at that. Like, I still have only spent 1 ice store. I put down 3 cool ice, and I've only spent 1 ice store on that 1 frost armor right there. Like, it's a really neat little trick to keep yourself at full ice. As you can see, still full ice. And I got 1 down there on the floor. Pretty cool. Now onto the gameplay clips. This first clip starts off as a 4v3, but luckily my teammates get a kill pretty early, and that turns it into a 3v3. Teammates played really well this time. Their positioning was excellent. I mean, this is one of my favorite fights I've gotten into as the Icecaller. Gonna get a pretty good start here. I get a bunch of cooling ice down before they jump on me, get a frost armor out. Not too bad. Not too bad of a start. I probably should have put a cool ice down right about here, but this champion's gonna mess me up quite a bit, so I have to drop the frost armory, pop my ult for the PDM, and run into my frost armors there. That's going to heal me up. And this is going to, and I finally get the cooling ice down right there. Now, this Wood Elf Blink is clutch. This is going to show you how clutch the Wood Elf Blink is. I totally lose this guy with that Wood Elf Blink. I'm almost certain that I lost him, but even if I didn't lose him, it's going to take him a little bit of time to get to me, and I would have still healed up to full there. And here my teammates actually pull back. They've got pretty good positioning here. But so do I. I'm in a pretty safe spot myself, but they pull back, which was definitely the move. It kind of draws this champion out and isolates him some. And I gotta say, my teammates played this really well. Like, they didn't overextend. They really played it well. So I got to give them some credit here. They're in spots where I'm able to very easily heal them. And we're actually going to force them to retreat here. So even though we don't completely kill them here, we turn this into a 3v3. And they're actually going to come back a few minutes later and try again. But overall, pretty well played for my teammates, and they're going to end up coming back here. We couldn't quite kill that champion. He ended up having a little bit too much mobility for us to finish him off. But they're going to end up coming back. This time it's a 3v3, and they get a much better engage. We actually start this fight off very poorly, especially compared to the last one. So I'm just trying to do some chip damage here, a little bit of poke damage. And it's not really working. Now, what they do is actually really smart. They're going to go up on top of this pillar So they've got much better positioning than us. They're able to just rain down on us. So my teammates, again, play it really well. They pull back, just come around this corner, take away that positional advantage, and they actually get quite a bit of damage. I think Lawless really lays into him a little bit, even though he's taking a lot of damage right there too. He picks up a Frost Armor. I'm able to get some heals on him, and he ends up doing quite a bit of damage himself, but they're definitely winning the DPS race as of right now. So we're just continually pulling back, pulling back, pulling back. I'm laying down the cooling ice as we're walking. So right now we're not doing too hot. We are on the defensive, but we do have something working for us, and that is Thorn Shield. The Thorn Shield damage, God only knows what it's added up to at this point with all those individual hits hitting for 50, 50, 50, 50. So the longer this fight goes with this particular matchup, the more of an advantage we have. And right here is the pivotal moment that changes the fight. I drop down that Ice Armory there. They roll into it, and there's the cooling ice, and I hit them with some direct healing. Now they are incredibly healthy. They're sitting pretty. And now the other, my opponents are having to run away, and I start putting some damage into them, drop down my AoEs, and that's not terrible damage for a healer. It's really not. I end up pushing up a little bit here. I know that it's it's very easy to get turned on. As soon as I saw that Redeemer, I was like, I got to get out, dip around the corner a little bit, drop some Ice Armors into myself for the self-healing, and look at how much those heal, dude. Those Ice Armors can heal for a lot. But we got this team on the back foot here, and we end up picking up a body here. I think we end up killing this champion here in a minute. I think Lawless hits him with the Wombo combo. He's going to drop, and now these guys are totally screwed. So, fun little back and forth fight there, and kind of just goes to show you with good positioning, if your teammates are working with you a little bit, helps a lot. This next fight is an example of everything going wrong. We're going to get engaged with me in my spellbook right after one of my party members pulled a whole bunch of spiders. So this could not go any worse. They're all going to jump on me. I immediately drop my Ice Armor, my Ice Armory, pop my ult for the PDM. That's going to save me a little bit here, but it's going to start going south real quick. Luckily, my Retaliate does proc Cool Ice right there, so that's going to keep me up a little bit, but I am definitely in trouble right now, especially with no Ice Armory. So spam those Ice Armors on myself. Luckily, I catch a little bit of my breath a little bit here. I'm able to put some Cool Ice down. But after that, I am now taking out short-term loans. Basically, sometimes as an Icecaller, you find yourself in a situation where you need the healing immediately. So you need to put the Ice Armor down, but you're not in Cool Ice. So you're essentially taking out like a loan shark loan of healing. You're healing less efficiently because you need the heal right now or you will die. So sometimes you get caught in that awkward situation. Like right now, I'm fine, but I'm going to get caught in a CC chain. And out of the CC chain, I would love to put down some Cool Ice. But I can't, because if I go for the combo, I will die. So immediately, I need to put down the Ice Armory and start spamming myself with the Ice Armor. Even though I don't want to, I pretty much have to. Because if I go for a 3-part combo at this much health, I'm dead. So you might as well just try and scrape by and hope your teammates can bail you out. And luckily they do. Luckily they do come to my rescue here and bail me out. But definitely very messy. That is an example of the Frostweaver not having time to prep the battlefield. There is a massive difference between starting the fight with a little bit of warning versus none at all. If you can start the fight and get some cooling ice down and prep the battlefield a little bit, it's a massive difference. And this is actually one of my favorite fights I've gotten into as the Icecaller. This was a super fun fight we had against UXA at their respawn outpost. The start of this fight was definitely pretty crazy. The melee that we had did something I've never seen anybody do before when it comes to engaging in a respawn outpost, and that is they just jump up the pillar. Like they've done this a million times. I don't know. I've never seen that done, but it seemed to work. I don't hate the idea. I always kind of like it when the tanks actually like just go in there and really create some space. And they are still healable. I can still hit them with the very edge of the perimeter of my ice. Some of my direct healing can't quite reach them, but they're staying alive, so it worked. The rest of the squad rolls around the outside here. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to kill that archer guard. Those 2 archer guards on the platforms do a lot of damage, so they are actually focusing the guard, but the other team is healing the guards. So it's a little weird, but we're making progress here. We're whittling them down, and I am dropping some pretty efficient heals up on that platform. We are going to have one of our confessors get a little bit low here. So I'm going to drop the Ice Armory here in a second, but luckily we get a pretty good, yeah, so here's the Ice Armory. I tell him to run back to it, but we had an Archdruid, Fjord had a really good ult there that healed a lot. It was a very efficient ult by him. So that really helped us stay aggressive, to be honest. So gonna hit Fitz up here with some ice. That's a little tricky. You know, hitting the ice on those platforms when you're down below can be a little tricky, but here are the super efficient heals. Look at these heals I'm dropping in this corner right here. Those are like peak efficiency, and Grind is gonna be getting focused here. Luckily he runs through that armor right there. That's gonna top him up a good bit, and we end up mopping up this fight. So that fight kind of shows you some of the efficiency of the AoE healing. Before we get into peak Icecaller, this next clip is pretty much peak Icecaller, and that is the big fights. The big fights are like the really big fights like this are where you're going to see the most value out of the Icecaller. It's where the out-of-party healing is really going to shine. So right here we are on the retreat. We are getting our asses beat. We're trying to rally back up here at the tree and with our tails between our legs, but this is going to show you some of the AoE, like just the amount of people you can heal as the Icecaller is pretty incredible. I would love to have had my parser running to see what my healing per second is right here, but I doubt anybody can really fuck with it. I mean, it doesn't look like much, but like because the numbers are small, like the text is small. But yeah, I would love to see what it is, because a lot of this healing isn't actually visible on your screen. Like you know, unless you're panning your camera around like 360, it's kind of hard to even see it all. So all of a sudden, we went from getting crapped on to being pretty healthy relatively quickly, and now we are actually gonna push out and get them on the back foot. And since I see that we're pushing out, I'm actually going to start prepping the battlefield and laying down these cool ice where we're going. I'm going to put them down ahead of time to hopefully heal some of the chip damage that people take as they're advancing. So anyway, hope this video gave you some insight on how I approach the Frostweaver. I think this class is definitely underrated. It's a lot of fun to play, and I would love to see your guys' take on it. So let me know if you have any better ideas or alternate ideas, and I will see you guys next time. Have a good one.